Hello. So next month is Valentine's Day. So I thought, what better in EDU than to talk about some Valentine's Day magic and spells, the history of Valentine's Day, which of course is Lupercalia, and an amazing love and romance vision board for your 2026 love life, right? So let's jump into it. Let me get my screen pulled up, everybody. All right. All right. Am I big enough? Yeah, I'm big enough. Let's open it up. Valentine's Day. It's going to be here in what? What is today? I think today's the 14th. So a month. We're exactly a month out. Whew, comes quicker every year. Okay. So, Valentine's Day spells, oftentimes you guys do focus on self-love, attracting new love, strengthening your existing relationships. And you're doing that by using intention, visualization, common herbs like rose, cinnamon, lavender, common crystals like rose quartz, red and pink candles, and a lot of times these are simple rituals, right? We're writing out our intentions in a manifestation journal. Maybe we're doing some chanting. See my Muse service EDUs on our YouTube because I have some wonderful, chanting tantra magic there. But we also create charm bags to manifest our desires around this time of year, focusing on what we want to receive in our romantic life throughout 2026 or throughout whatever year you're doing this in. But other common practices, intention jars like honey and sweetening jars. When we're making our candles or making sure we're anointing them in the appropriate oils. Using affirmations, standing in front of a mirror, using self-worth and attracting positive connections through affirmations. So I kind of wrote down here how to do these different things. Very simple. Intention setting can be very simple. Writing out your statement on a piece of paper, putting it in a little manifest bag, burning it in a sacred fire, dissolving it in sacred water, using candles, carving names and intentions, using sigils, using oils while visualizing, including those herbs and crystals that are love, related, romance related. I love cinnamon and lavender. I use rose as well, but anything associated with passion, healing, self-love, especially healing any trauma we may have from previous failed relationships that we carry with us. That creates fragmentation. So it's a good time of the year to do soul retrieval work specifically for trauma related to love life failures. Again, jar spells. I love jar spells, your basic honey, herbs, love rose petals. I have actually write on my rose petals with a fine tip Sharpie. I'll put names, intentions, I'll do sigils. Sigils on rose petals look beautiful. In a couple of the videos I do have on YouTube, I talk about making edible rose petals with a infused love and romance sugar dusting. So check that out. Those are delicious and beautiful to use to adorn foods you might be serving to a target. But if you're doing a jar, usually you're including sigils, intention papers, you're charging it with the appropriate energy. Affirmations, very simple. I love and am love. I am worthy of love. And self love rituals in general, meditation, that's a self love ritual, you guys, yoga, visualizing love radiating from within. So let's jump into it. All right. So an attraction spell, carving love or a desired quality. Maybe it's sex onto a red candle, anointing it in rose oil, lighting it for 3 nights in a row while visualizing, that feeling of love, pulling love towards you. Strengthening spells, very simple, writing your partner's name and the terms only you on a piece of petition paper, like rice paper, dabbing that with rose oil, folding it, keeping it in a drawer while repeating, we grow closer, once a day. Prioritizing self love as the foundation for all other forms of love. That's where the annual vision board activity comes in. It's a virtual vision board. I'm going to teach you how to make it at the end, but this is where you prioritize you and what you want and what you're pulling in and attracting. So on Valentine's Day, focusing on true love, right? the energy of power, desire, courage, intuition, and deep emotion. So, here's a spell that kind of invites that energy into your heart while kind of mindfully clearing whatever obstacles you may have from, again, previous failures that may stand in the way of that love. So, self love February, okay? Every day, I want you to include some sort of gesture of kindness towards yourself. So here's a really simple one. You just need a candle, a cup of wine, juice, water, or some other beverage you enjoy, coffee, tea, and a piece of paper and a pen, in a safe, private, comfortable space, place them in front of you, light the candles, sit up tall, close your eyes, start it off with a cleansing, focus on that candle flame. You can have your eyes open or closed for this, and allow that flame to become bigger and brighter in your imagination, almost like a bonfire, of heat, of passion, desire, courage, that deep emotion, that intuition, that powerful unconditional love, right? Now, I want you to start calling on those things. Call on things within you that prevent you from accessing this love, this flame that you're seeing. It could be internal narratives about maybe you don't feel you're deserving, or maybe you feel like you can't self-regulate your own emotions. Maybe you have self-doubts and fears of being hurt again. You need to call upon these things for release, right? Put them in the flame. Some people, it's a discomfort with intimacy too, honestly. I think that as time has gone by, over the years, I feel like intimacy is starting to be lost. I think we also, all of us, have addictive patterns in relationships. We seem to be drawn into the same cycles and behaviors, people that have hurt us in the past. It's like these past traumas have left a scar tissue on our hearts. And oftentimes we carry that with us subconsciously and inadvertently draw that to us. So brushing your hands over your body, kind of collecting all these energies, these obstacles, and just gently casting them into that flame, right? And do this as many times as you need to. Now, in the second step here, you invite the energy of love in, right? So when you're ready, you just place your hands on the front of your pelvis. You're going to breathe down low into your pelvis and genitals. I want you to kind of imagine like a gateway opening to the earth below you. Invite the energy of life, of joy, delights, pleasures, playfulness to kind of rise up through your core and into your heart. This is also the energy of emotion. True love can hold your sadness, your grief, your fear, and anything else that comes up with care and compassion, right? You can give it away. So inhale this energy up to your heart, warming and soothing whatever you may be holding there, and then exhale downward into the earth below. Okay, so you're releasing what you don't need. So you're just going to allow that energy to run up and down your body, following the rhythm of your breath. And then in step 3, you're going to make the promise, right? It's time to make a promise, like I promise to commit to my delight, or, I promise to open myself only to lovers who see the depths of me, or I promise to keep this energy for myself right now if you're not interested in partnership. Keep breathing and then allow the promise to come up from your body, not from your mind. It's not about what you think you should say, but what you really deeply desire for yourself around the power of true love. So as a gesture of commitment to this promise, I want you to take a sip of your beverage, which, has been witnessing and absorbing the intentions of the spell. And then you're going to close the ritual, right? You're going to thank the earth for supporting you in your practice. You're going to thank anybody else, your ancestors, your deity. You're going to thank the fire for showing you love. And then you're going to thank yourself for opening to this energy of love. Very simple, but very powerful, you guys. Only takes a few minutes too. I mean, it's something you could do almost every day, in the month of February. Um, oh gosh, okay, so I'm sorry. I thought I skipped the whole page here. It took me a second. So, writing down your promise that you made in this ritual on a piece of paper, keep it with you and look at it as often as you need to over the next month or so, right? Throughout the month of February. Let it help you kind of stay honest about what you really want from love so you're not settling and compromising. You're going to blow that candle out, sit back, relax, drink your beverage. Sorry, I kind of thought I skipped over a section here, but magic, magic has been used for centuries to help us with our deepest desires. And, what do we desire, right? Especially on Valentine's Day from love. Do we really know what it is that we want? Is it love? Is it self-love? Love from one to another. I mean, what is it that we want? And doing the vision board exercise helps us identify that. But love spells are accessible to all of us, right? You don't have to be a sixth generation, worker or spirit worker to do this stuff. Okay. You don't need a background. Um, you can manifest the loving energy you want in your life. So here's a bit of the history of love magic. And a couple of little kind of like beginner newbie spells that you can try without needing a lot of, background or supplies or anything like that. So, the history of love magic. So, it's traced back as early as 2200 BCE in the ancient Near East, present day Iraq, southeast Turkey, southwest Iran, northeastern Syria, and Kuwait, as well as in ancient Egypt, of course. But as time went on, a lot of these practices were picked up in ancient Greek and Roman cultures. So it continued on through the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, and they're still around today. So magic has, generally speaking, always been associated with women and witches. And love magic specifically includes anything from literal spells to like, potions, rituals, dolls, and so on. But, there are a lot of masculines that do love magic these days. So times have changed. Views have shifted for sure. So the reason we use magic with a K, because somebody did email me about this. Why do I keep throwing a K in with magic? It is to serve kind of a distinction from straight stage magic or illusion magic. And actually, I'm not, the first one here. It was first coined by Crowley. He created the Thelema religion and kind of led that spiritual practice that became Wicca. You can spell it however you want, but that's why I spell it. I'm kind of following Crowley here. But here's the three beginner spells to try. All right, so similar to manifesting, crystal work, and similar, manifestation setters or stagers, these spells are going to kind of be a way for you to channel intention and get clear on what it is you want. And for your intention to come true, it's always important to pair action with your spell to actively work toward what you're calling it. I always bring that up because that's an important piece. All right, so I think the most powerful love spell there is, instead of just, casting a spell, is kind of embodying the energy of love, becoming love and acting as a magnet for that. So, figuring out what it means for you to romance yourself and what it means for you to have a relationship with love internally before you move to having that external relationship is really important, you guys. People tend to want to skip over that, right? They want the partner, they want the partnership. But how are you going to maintain a partnership if you don't know how to love and romance yourself first, right? Or what you really truly want. So, a spell for strengthening love, this isn't just strengthening existing love, but maybe you're attracting a particular partner. This is called a sealed with a kiss spell. So, it kind of involves using a love letter with magic to boost love in a particular partnership. I'm actually doing this with my partner this year. So over New Year's, on New Year's Eve, we wrote letters to ourselves and to each other that we sealed up that will open next New Year's. And we're doing the same thing for Valentine's Day. They're love letters that we're going to seal up and then we'll open next Valentine's Day. It's just a cute thing. But this spell called Sealed with a Kiss, um, back in the day, people did use wax to seal letters, and I love wax seals. I don't know why, I just do. But this spell kind of goes back to that tradition. It also taps into visual magic using Norse runes to express your intention. So, what you're going to need, very, very basic here, a pink or red candle in a holder, matches or a lighter, a piece of pretty paper in an envelope, a pen with red ink is preferable. And then either a nail, maybe you have an altar anthem or another pointed tool you can use, and then here are the directions. So you're going to light the candle, set it on the table, desk, or whatever surface you're going to work on. If you have an altar, great. So you don't need to set up an altar. But on the paper, you're going to write a love letter to your partner. Maybe it's somebody you're involved with now, or maybe it's somebody you want to be in a partnership with. So when you finish, you're going to fold that up, slip it in the envelope. You're going to hold the candle tilted and drip some of the melted wax onto the flap of the envelope to seal it. Now, after the wax is cooled somewhat, but is still kind of soft, inscribe the rune we call Gabo into the wax. The symbol that's the rune for love and partnership. It looks like an X. Okay, so I put it right there on the screen for you. But You could mail that letter if you wanted to, your partner or the one that you want a partnership with, or you can just put it on a bedside table. If you're into feng shui, you could also place it in the relationship section of your home. I'm not going to break down feng shui. If you're into feng shui, you know what that means. Okay, moving on. Okay, a spell for attracting love. So this is another easy spell that kind of uses honey and alcohol for attracting and strengthening love. It can be tweaked for a variety of intentions here. It's important to remember to embody love yourself again as you are trying to attract it in your life. You're going to hear me repeat that repeatedly today, you guys. So for this one, you're just going to need a small to medium jar, some honey, alcohol of your choice. I like using vodka, but it's your preference, rose petals and thorns because you want to represent love with healthy boundaries, right? Boundaries, you guys. Herbs that correspond with love. I like blue lotus. I like lavender. Lavender is very healing. Blue lotus is like an aphrodisiac. Cinnamon also for lust, sex. Patchouli for fat or passion. Oregano for good luck and love, and on we go. Choose what works for you. A crystal like rose quartz. I'm going to use, that as the example today, but it doesn't have to be rose quartz, you guys. Other things I like: mystic topaz, garnet, amethyst, opal. A piece of paper and pen, a candle, and then matches or a lighter. The directions here: you're going to add a bit of honey and your alcohol to a jar along with your rose petals, thorns, herbs, and crystal. You're going to write your intention on a piece of paper in the past or present tense, no future tense, such as you're going to, for example, I found a lover, right? Place it in the jar. You're going to close the lid, shake it up, visualize your intention. You're going to light the candle, say your intention out loud to the universe, visualizing what it would be like to attain it. Play that little movie in your head. Those head movies are important. Raise the energy by chanting, dancing, playing drums, whatever moves you, whatever gets you energetically stimulated. You're going to allow the candle to burn down in the sink, a sink if you have one, or a bowl. When it's done burning, I want you to take a moment to mentally close out your ritual, right? Thanking the universe or any deities or ancestors that you work with. You're going to throw out the jar in the garbage at an intersection. Modern day crossroads, this is where we as witches originally buried things, is at a crossroads. If you're in a city, an intersection works. Know that your spell is complete too. Have faith in it. Faith is important, you guys. Whew. All right, hang on. I need a drinky. All right, this is a spell for it's a self-love bath. And again, if you go to my YouTube, I have in my Sacred Sexuality series several videos up. I call them basic love spells, basic sex crafts. Very simple, very similar to these. I probably have about between those two videos at least 100 recipes, rituals, spells. So, and they're free. So check it out. Anyway, a spell bath for self-love. Okay. So I want you to think of how you can become your own lover, right? And give yourself what you want others to give to you, right? And then I want you to ritualize that. When we do this, we can better show up in our relationships with other people, honestly. So what you're going to need: bath salts. You're going to draw out that stagnant energy in your love life. Rose petals. You're going to want to connect to more divine feminine energy. Candles, matches, lighters, your favorite fragrance. Fragrance. My favorite is Tom Ford's Lost Cherry. That is my favorite fragrance for any kind of love, romance, or sex work. Don't pay full price for it. Go on eBay. You get it for $100. Anyway, moving on. And your favorite outfit or lingerie. I like lingerie, pink or red lingerie, lacy, silky. Light a candle or candles and begin running your bath water as you hold your intention to love yourself in mind. You're going to add your bath salts, your rose petals, and then you're going to get into the top, right? You're going to connect at that time with any deities you work with. Venus is a great deity. She's the Roman goddess of love, beauty, sex, and pleasure. Same with Oshun if you work with Orishas. You can also simply connect with loving energy. If you're Hellenistic, the muse. Actually, honestly, all the muses. I don't want to pick out just one. Eros is great, but Arado, obviously. Um, Anyways, you can simply connect with loving energy. You don't have to connect to any deities if you don't do deity work. As you bathe, offer yourself the love that you'd like to receive from others. After your bath, you're going to drain the tub, snuff out or blow out your candles. Listen, they say blowing them out is said to blow away your spell. That's bullshit. You can blow out your candles, you guys. Um, Put on your favorite perfume and an outfit like I like lingerie that makes you feel beautiful and sensual. And take some time to meditate, once more on that intention as you've now sort of embodied that with what self love feels like. I want you to enjoy how it feels and kind of pamper and love yourself. And then mentally close out your ritual and thank yourself for the love, right? Always show gratitude, especially to yourself. That's powerful in casting magic. All right, so what the hell? Valentine's Day is from this festival called Lupercalia, right? How did that happen? Let's talk about it because it's wild. So, oh, before we get into that, I had one more statement here. I totally forgot. So, as the old saying goes, you get what you give. So, for all spells, know that the more you're able to be love, the more it's going to flow to you with ease. Valentine's Day is a really great time to enjoy the love we also have in our life. Our kids, our parents, it's not just romantic partners. And with the help of these spells that we're kind of talking about today, we can bring a very high vibration loving energy to our life even more, our existing relationships with family, friends, our work peers. Okay, so Lupercalia, Lupercalia. It's like the wild Roman West here. Okay, so this was an ancient Roman fertility festival. It was usually held around February 15th. Obviously, it was replaced with Valentine's Day by this Pope Gelasius. He outlawed it in the 5th century and designated February 14th as a feast day for martyred saints. Obviously the one named Valentine, but he wanted to shift the focus from pagan rituals to Christian commemoration, right? Through romantic, associations. Although those really developed a little bit later, like in the Middle Ages. So some of the symbols did carry over, like the colors red and white, the February timing over that. Some of the transition wasn't direct. A lot of scholars who have researched this do say there is a significant gap, like before the romantic elements really came into Valentine's Day. So with Lupercalia, this was a very pagan festival, right? It was fertility focused. It celebrated Faunus, who is the Roman god of agriculture, and it also honored Romulus and Remus. There was ritual sacrifice, priests, they were called Luperci. They would sacrifice a goat for fertility and a dog for purification, which breaks my heart. Blood and whipping. Yes, they used goat hides to slap women and fields, believing that they were promoting fertility and childbirth. There was like a matching lottery. So this people debate this. They go back and forth, but a lot of accounts do suggest that during this time there was romance or love lotteries that paired single young men and women together. But again, we're not 100% if that was in fact what was happening or somebody's imagination, but there are quite a few texts that kind of reference that. So then there was the Christian intervention, right? So again, this Pope in the late 5th century banned it. He viewed it as pagan. He repurposed the date, right? These, I mean, they were like pirates back then, and then he established it as St. Valentine's Day just to honor martyrs, right? Placing it near like the pagan festival date to kind of Christianize that time period. So early St. Valentine's, right? These St. Valentine's days early on, initially, all it was kind of like a feast day. It celebrated these two men named Valentine. There was another man. I didn't put his name in here. Shit, I forget. Valentine was one of them. There was actually a second man, and his name is the tip of my brain now, and I can't remember it. But they were executed by this Emperor Claudius. And, it wasn't romantic initially. It was just kind of a feast day, showing things that they sacrificed their lives basically for Christianity. In the Middle Ages, around the 14th century, the link to love finally emerged. Part of that is due to that medieval belief that birds chose mates in mid-February. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but that has been a medieval belief for eons. you'll see in some of these old like Austrian Romanian villages like that seem to be untouched by the urbanization and tech, the tech of society now. They still do that. They have these events, they go out and they watch birds, and they go to these, they put out these big troughs of bird food, and they believe the birds come and choose mates and pair people up in mid-February. Anyway, literary influences played part of this, poets and writers, like Chaucer, they further popularized the association with love and romance. Um, so Lupercalia, the date and some symbols were kind of co-opted into St. Valentine's Day. It wasn't a direct continuation, but more of a religious replacement, which we hate, right? But it gradually did absorb those romantic meanings over centuries. And it really, was disconnected from the pagan rituals themselves over time. So the original Lupercalia was held at the Lupercal cave. It was dedicated to Lupercus, which was the god of shepherds and fertility, and Faunus, promoting health, purification, good fortune. And again, it was associated with Rome's founding myth of Romulus and Remus. Dates and locations, again, it was February 15th around that cave on the Palatine Hill. If you know mythology, you know. Again, same, the purpose, warding off evil spirits is one of them. The participants, again, the priests were called Luperci. These Luperci were often young men of noble birth, by the way. We call them priests, but, they were naked, drunk, whipping women with, sacrifice goat skins. So I don't know how priestly they were. But anyway, moving forward here. Rituals, like I said, they sacrifice goats for sexuality, dogs for purification, blood rituals. So a bloody knife, would be touched to the Luperci's foreheads and then wiped with milk, symbolizing laughter and purification. I think they were drunk at this point. Um, Sorry, you guys. So the run. Okay, so the naked Luperci run, that was the Luperci would run around the Palatine Hill, striking the women with the strips of hide called februa, which was believed to grant fertility, right? Origins, some texts link this to the Latin lupus, which is a wolf, the she wolf that nursed Rome's founders, Romulus and Remus, connecting it to the purification and the city's kind of mythic past. But again, some of these historical documents, you have to take a little bit with a grain of salt. I'm just, kind of letting you know what's out there. The legacy, Februarius, the name February comes from Februa, the purification instruments, right? The festivals, traditions, particularly its date and fertility themes, are all seen by some as precursors to Valentine's Day, which it makes sense to me. It links up, right? Okay, so I love this diagram here. Valentine's Day is oftentimes, we don't talk about this. We're always seeing the romantic, prime rib buffets and the candlelight concerts, but it is a big fertility period as well. Lots of fertility magic, lots of fertility work. I'm actually considering doing a fertility based community group service next month because nobody really, I feel like nobody really acknowledges the fertility aspects of Valentine's Day or Lupercalia. Fertility is huge. If you want to conceive, if you're working on conception, this is a really great energetic window to do so. Other things during Valentine's Day, weddings, wedding engagements, all these things. These are big this time of year, working on, maybe you're casting spells to become engaged. You want your partner to finally pop the question. Or you're planning a wedding. Having an actual wedding around this time of the year, around Valentine's Day is good energetically. There's a lot of really great energy there that supports fidelity and longevity of union. So I see a lot of marriage, wedding engagement type requests this time of year. A lot of synastry reports and astrology. This is a time of year people usually look at their D9, their Vedic D9, because that is kind of like your marriage and family chart. So a lot of that type of thing. I of course do the kissograms. I like doing the 12-month outlook. What does your love life look like each month? That kind of gives you a way to plan, If you have some shitty months in there, maybe you can do some extra spells to get in front of it energetically, create some extra energy. A couple years ago, I did Valentines with sigils for people. So they were sigil Valentines. I'm a historian at heart here. I love the Victorian era. Back in the Victorian era for Valentine's Day, they used to include little locks of hair. Classrooms would actually, instead of having class photos, like, you go into a school, you see all the class photos, each student would give a lock of hair and they would make these beautiful hair wreaths. They would do the same thing around Valentine's Day. Families would all come together and each of them would take a lock of hair and make these beautiful family wreaths. And those would be, set in a frame and displayed. I mean, I have one. Actually, it cost me a fortune. I found it. I can't remember if it was out in Baltimore. It was right outside Baltimore, I think, at a little oddity shop, but you could find them. There was a little oddity shop in Chicago that used to get their hands on them once in a while. Antique shops, oddity shops. But I always think of the Victorian era Valentine, obviously sending somebody a lock of hair now, depending on the person, they're either going to be receptive or weirded out. But sigils like, Venus, Jupiter, I love those sigils on Valentine's. I wish people did more of that because that's very powerful. Um, Gifts. I did a EDU earlier. I was talking about Yanni magic and divination and a very specific Yanni ceremony you can do with your partner this Valentine's Day. And part of that ritual, that ceremony, is exchanging gifts. And a lot of times they're just these small tokens. They're Thai amulets for the most part because it's a neo-tantric tradition, but they're little Thai, brass and copper ornaments. You've seen them at any kind of witch fair or event, with the huge penis or the huge genitalia and like it's weird looking, or there's something floating in oil. Those are very common at Valentine's Day. And not to promote Etsy because they piss me off, but there are some really wonderful little Thai shops on Etsy that sell beautiful, wonderful love amulets you can exchange or gift your lover at Valentine's Day. So check that out if you're looking for something, unique and different. I really like, for the most part, all of the Thai magicians I work with on Etsy are very legit. There's been a few over the years that were shitty, but these are magic monks. It's very powerful in terms of love amulets. Anyways, moving on. Don't forget simple things too around Valentine's Day. Magical manicures. I did I think was it right before or after Christmas? I can't remember. In one of my series, I think it was the Sacred Sexuality series, I did a whole magical fashionista presentation talking about, based on your astrology, your colors, fabrics, adornments, and especially like, adorning your nails. I think Valentine's Day is a wonderful day, not just for a pink or red manicure, but put some sigils on there. Create a love drawing sigil or create a fidelity sigil, and have your, nail tech or yourself, if you're talented, include those in your manicure. Make your manicure magical, right? Um, and color magic, again. I think I put that magical fashionista video on our YouTube. So if you're interested in that, check it out because color coordinated with patterns and your astrology and what you're trying to do is powerful, you guys. It's very powerful. Anyway, moving forward, I don't want to get too lost in myself. This is my favorite part of this presentation. I want each and every one of you, if you do nothing else, I want you to make a virtual love and romance vision board for 2026. Okay, I want you to do it before the end of January so that come February 1st, you have this saved on your PC, your laptop, your tablet, your cell phone, that you can look at it whenever you want, right? And you don't have to go out and get a bunch of magazines and glue sticks and scissors. Very simple. All you need to do is, if you have Word or Publisher, whatever program you're using, open up a blank one, put it in landscape mode, choose a background color, pinks, purples, whatever. And then I want you to sit down and do a list. You are going to do 4 lists actually, because this vision board has 4 parts. We got part 1, 2, 3, and 4. And let me tell you what they are and how this is going to work. Part 1 right here, I'm going to put myself over part one. You're going to take to Google and you're going to do Google image searches. You're going to save images that you're going to crop if you want or not, and put on this board in the correct position. And this is what we're going to do. Let me explain to you how I did mine so that you can do yours, much more easier. So here's my part one. Part one of this vision board is, how do you love yourself? How do you show yourself romance? How do you romance self? How do I make myself feel loved and, romanticized? What do I do for me? And so for me, I sat and I thought about it as I was making my list. And I thought, well, I love going to the spa. I love shopping. I love trying on lingerie. And, I was thinking of all the things I like. And I started thinking back to my childhood. I don't know, for those of you around my age, if you guys remember in the mid 90s, there were a ton of sitcoms on TV, because this is before tech bullshit, right? And they all pretty much had the same theme. Sex in the City, Veronica's Closet, Caroline in the City, single professional women living in the center of a city in a high rise, executive, posh, weird jobs, right? Doing like wild things, shopping at the local boutique, buying designer things, going home, sitting in their beautiful living room with the skyscraper window background, sipping their wine, trying on their new shoes or their new purse. And I remember thinking, because all the shows were like that back then. Think about it, back in the mid 90s. Um, I remember watching that and thinking, oh, that's so amazing. I wish that could be my life. That looks so beautiful, but thinking it never would be, because number one, it was so unrealistic for most people, right? The money, the education, living in a city. I mean, it just seemed it was out of touch for most people. It just wasn't real, right? But it was a beautiful fantasy. And that's why people loved those shows. I loved those shows. It was a beautiful fantasy. And so I was sitting making my list and I thought, oh my gosh, like all these decades later, that's me. Oh my God, I'm Caroline in the City. Because I was sitting here, I had just bought some lingerie for Valentine's Day. And I remember before I started my project here, I wasn't sipping wine, I was sipping Starbucks, but I had brought my body length mirror in the living room, which is all windows looking out. I live in the heart of Minneapolis, so it's all skyscrapers and lights and everything around me. So it was nighttime, so it's really pretty, all of the lights on all the buildings. And I'm sitting in here sipping my Starbucks, beautiful night skyscraper, through the windows, background. And I'm trying on all this lingerie in front of my mirror, making sure it fits right and looks cute while I was watching, I think like a horror movie. I love horror movies. And I had this epiphany, like I correlated that to these shows I used to watch in the 90s and how much I longed for that life. And I just never thought it would be me. I never thought, I was going to be a mom and, a therapist and, I was going to do this, that, and the other thing. And living in a skyscraper in a city, sipping wine, trying on lingerie is not going to be me. Well, it is all these years later. So I was like, wow, I did it. I actually did it and didn't even realize I manifested something that I dreamt about in the early to mid 90s. That's wild, right? So when I was making my board, my virtual board here, that's what I use for Google search terms. I looked up Sex in the City, Caroline in the City, Veronica's Closet, because those are the movies that to me was feminine self-love and luxury and romance. Watching these women live their lives in the big city with the city lights and the spas and, the boutiques and the food. So if you look at my pictures, that's, shopping, spa, fun, posing in front of things, the city kind of, you can't really see it through here, but in this picture, it's Caroline in the City. There's like the skyscrapers through the windows. Again, shopping here. I love this image. This is, I forget her name from Sex in the City. She's trying on lingerie. She has all of this lingerie on the floor. She's been trying on, talking on the phone, manicures, they're just laughing out, having a great time, more shopping, too many clothes. That's me. Again, here's another nice one. She's on her bed, just surrounded by shopping bags. Again, this one is from Veronica's closet, and you can see the windows in her living room, the beautiful skyscraper city line in the background. Same thing here from Caroline in the city. So to me, that was self-love. That is self-romance. That is loving myself, is giving myself a life of luxury. Now, I don't live that every day, of course, but I do have the apartment in the city, and I do like to shop at least once a month. I can't, I go and get my nails done once a month. Some of the stuff, I'm not living like they lived in the shows, but I'm still doing it, right? I manifested it and I didn't even realize. So I want you guys, think of the shows that you've watched over the years, the movies, the magazine ads, the Instagram ads, the things that have moved you that are for self, for no one else, but to make you feel good, to romance yourself, to make you just the highest vibrational kind of luxurious energy state you can be in. And I want you to grab images, crop them, play with them, and I want you to put them in that part of your vision board, because this vision board is for the whole year. And we're starting with a base point. What is romance and love of self look like to me? Okay, so then we're going to move on to part two. Let me move myself here. I'm stuck. Oops. Part two is sex. If you haven't noticed with the dick cage. So, part two, the right side of your love and romance vision board, you guys. This is about what is good sex? Like, what, when I fantasize and what I've experienced through my life experiences, what do I want sexually for me? Is it, solo motivated? Is it partnership motivated? And I don't judge. Is it group motivated? Are you poly? Do you want to, like what is a good, healthy, enjoyable pleasure base look like to you? And yeah, it's sexualized for sure. I want you to think about, make a list on your paper. What feels good? What good experiences have you had? What do you want to try yet that you haven't tried? What does a healthy, fun, vibrant sex life look like? Because sex is very important. I mean, from an energetic level. Okay. It is. Sex is a manifester, it's a manifestation tool. So for me, I made my list. And it was extensive enough that I had to stop a few times and be like, Jesus. And that's okay, no judgment, right? It is what it is. What moves us moves us. What makes us happy makes us happy. Um, and as I'm making my list, I realized, for 2026, I really want to focus on the sexual experiences I have not had yet, but that I really desire, that I feel will lift me up, that I want for me, right? Like for me, it does include partnership, but it doesn't have to include partnership with you. It could be solo acts of sexual pleasure, or however you express sexual energy. Maybe it's ritual, maybe it's making talismans, maybe it's sex magic that doesn't actually involve sex, right? For others, I have clients who work in groups, it's more sex group time. For me, it's partnership. I'm in a partnership. And what do I want to experience and play with this year with my partner to fill those needs, like to cross them off my bucket list this year? I'm not going to wait till next year and, oh, we'll wait till I lose another 10 pounds. Fuck that. Let's do it now, right? What do I want to try sexually? And maybe some of these things I try and I find out I don't like, but that's okay because you don't know until you try. So let's try, right? So for me, and I'll be honest, I don't give a shit. I don't get embarrassed. There's a lot of things I want to try this year with my partner. The first one here, you can notice there's painting. These, I have, this this sex body painting kit, and I want to make a canvas art print with my partner. I want us to get naked, covered in paints. I have silver and gold metallic body paints, and I want us to fuck on a canvas, that a huge canvas. And then when we're done, I want to display that as a piece of art. So that is how I am showing that fantasy, is between these two images. Something solo, corset piercing. I don't need anybody for that, but for me, that's very sexual. It is, kind of channeling some of that sexual, that bioanatomy of activating our sexual chakra system. I have videos of that on YouTube too. And I've always been fascinated with the corset piercings. I don't think I could do a big one like this one right here, but this one in the middle, it's just a couple of piercings on each side. I'm going to do that this year because to me, it's not the act of sex, but it sexualizes my energetic system. It makes me more powerful in the realm of sexual energy. So handling that energy, manipulating that energy. So I definitely want to do the corset piercing. I want to start having sex, right? Because it's been a long time. I'm in partnership. Um, and I'm not going to get into the details of it, but having plenty of sex and not just sex, once a year would be, or every 2 years would be great. Um, and is that my image right here? Just having sex? Would that be nice? Um, Things I want to try with my partner, neuro massage. That is the art of massage. It's naked massage. You massage your partner with your body versus your hands so much. There is an erotic, hypno-erotic art form attached to that. So that's something I want to definitely ramp up this year. Um, you see a cock cage here. It's a fantasy. I want to put that on my partner and see what happens. Over here, electrostim. I bought the gloves and I am fascinated. Here's the thing. I was at this shop with Maddie and I seen this whole electro stim and I thought, wow, I'm Aquarian and I have a very strong Uranus. So yeah, electricity moves me. And I'm like, I would love to see how that works. And so it's expensive, to buy this stuff. So I bought the gloves and then you have to buy like the kit or whatever that the electricity comes through. And so I spend all this money, I buy it. I'm really super excited. I haven't used it yet. It's sitting in my closet. I am using it this year because it's on my vision board. But as I'm walking out of this shop, this guy, and he's a sweet guy, he has an English accent. He's from the UK. And as I'm walking out, he says, be careful with that. Don't touch your chest. Don't touch his chest. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, he's like, I guess if you touch your heart, like you could literally give somebody a heart attack with those. I'm like, you should have more of a disclaimer when selling this shit because I wouldn't have known if he had not said anything to me as I was walking out. Anyway, it's on my list to do this year. Um, what else is on my list? I have been thinking for a while about getting another Shakti piercing. I have one in my left nostril, but I was thinking about potentially, and it's funny because I just did a Vulvamancy EDU for our Sacred Sexuality series, and I talk about genital piercing. I don't know where I want it. I don't know. I was thinking of the Christina. I'm not sure yet, but I'm gonna think about it a little bit longer and sit on it. But if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it this year. But it's a strong what if, so I put it here for what I'm gonna do sexually in 2026. All right, so for you, you're gonna make your list. What do you want to try this year? You know, what do you want to do to your body that sexualizes you more? It could be anything, you guys. You've seen I had like kind of a whole range of things here. Take to Google, find those images. We're going to get them put in the upper right corner of your virtual vision board. All right, down here, lower left corner. What are we doing to manifest these things? Manifestation involves action, right? And action looks different depending on what the intent is. But when we're talking about love, romance, sex, loving ourselves, what actions are we taking to manifest what we want? So, I'm taking actions in my professional life to manifest my self love and romance. I'm taking action in my partnership to manifest. I'm also, excuse me, spending a lot of time learning, like learning massage. And so you can see that here in the left-hand corner. So what am I doing? How am I actively, and you guys may need to make a list. Like, what are you going to do to help these things manifest? What can you do? You got to have a plan. So I have signed up for multiple art classes. Me and my partner are taking art classes. We're going to get prepped and we're going to do the body art. um, Puppy yoga. I've signed me and my partner up for puppy yoga. And again, that is to kind of strengthen our bond so that I can put the chastity dick cage on them. Okay. The city life here, I have this little clip of, nighttime in the city and being out and enjoying the skyline. Well, I just got to keep working hard. Obviously, I want this to be a fixture in my life. So it fits right up here. It's my self love, my self romance. This is where I feel most powerful, where I feel I am at my highest vibration is when I'm in the city looking at the lit up, dark city skyline. And so I need to keep myself here. So I have to nurture my professional life, to ensure I can afford it, manage it financially. The new room massage. My partner and I are signed up next month for a couples massage class where they teach you how to massage. I'm like, well, let's go learn the basics and then we'll just strip naked and, supplement body parts for Nuru and practice at home. I'm also, in order to get him more sexually on board with some of my fun stuff here in the upper right hand corner, like electroshock. um, I found online next month, with it being February, there's lots of stuff going on, and one of them is an erotic art show. It's half art gallery, half performance. And so I bought his tickets. I'm going to take him to this art show. And again, this is me kind of um, opening doors and creating paths to bring more sexualization into our connection. So that's what I'm doing in terms of efforts to manifest what I want in my sex life and, how I want to continue to love and romance, and date myself, romance myself. And so these are ways that I'm doing that. Now, same for you, make your list. What are you doing now, or what can you do to bring in manifestation of these things that you have put on the upper left side to romance yourself and love yourself, and your upper right side to sexualize self, to heighten sexual activity or sexual energy, or just the way you feel about sex. What do you want to try? What's on your sexual bucket list? I want all in the left hand corner here, do some Google searches. What events are going on in your area that you can attend? To maybe learn a skill or maybe take a partner with to kind of open a door to kind of manifest these things, not just in sex, but in your personal life. If your personal goal is to live in a high rise, what are you doing in your professional life to earn the resources and means to maintain that kind of lifestyle? Maybe you need to do something, make a change, take a class, get a certification, take on some remote work. So, think about these things and then start grabbing images off Google and, planting them there in the lower left hand of your virtual um, vision board. Last but not least, the right side, the bottom right side of our vision board. This was fun for me. What do you want to receive in partnership this year? A lot of us, when we think love and romance, it is partnership. Of course, self comes first, but then partnership is heavy. And I thought about it. I thought about, what do I want to receive from my partner? I have a partner who is very spiritually evolved, and we communicate for the most part. I mean, and I was thinking about my life. So I didn't look at my partner as an individual person. What I did for this part of the exercise is I looked at my life as a pattern, a sequence of events and relationships, and what was lacking in those that I really wanted that I never had. And, I've been married and divorced twice. I've had lots of, on and off, situationships. And the one thing, I'm a giver. Gifting is my love language. And so holidays, vacations, special events, just because I would always kind of go above and beyond with the gifting, showing my love through the presentation of tangible material things that I found to be amazing, right? And it was always well received. Don't get me wrong. My people I gift, even now, my family, my friends, my partner, they're always grateful. They always love it. I love doing it. It makes me feel good to see how excited they get. It's a good feeling. However, in all these years, I've never been with somebody who did the same for me. Like, I have never been with gifters. I've been with Capricorns. I've been with Sag, I Taurus. And, like, sometimes these men, when the sun rules them that way, they're not great at expressions of love romantically with gifts. Um, they may be great at sex or something, but that usually lacks. So for me, when I was making my list, like, what do I want to receive? I thought about all the times that I was kind of hoping my person would do something unique and special, and give me something special, and they didn't, and how that kind of stung a little bit. And I thought, this year, I want to manifest, I want to receive gifts. And I know that may seem shallow, but it's not, because you know what? All these years, all these decades of giving, for one year, I would like to be the receiver. I don't think, and it's not just about the thing. Yeah, I want the thing, but it's the effort and the mindset that you prioritized balancing your budget to get me this sparkly thing. That means more to me probably than the thing, but that's how you're going to present it. That's how you're going to show it to me. So I've gone on a tangent here. On the right corner here, I have jewelry. Lots and lots of jewelry. You know, fashionable clothes, boots, purses, perfume, makeup, gadgets. I have this beautiful cake made out of money. Boy, if somebody gave me a three-tiered cash cake, I would be like, oh my God, you love me. But I've made these for people before. I've done them with cash. I've done them with scratch offs, like the dollar scratch offs, so you could roll them. They are so fun to make and to gift because the person is always like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. A couple years for Christmas, my parents, I made completely by hand with all kinds of art tools, a Christmas tree lot that lit up. It was like a tabletop. It looked like a Christmas tree lot. I had hanging wreaths. I had hanging Christmas lights that were battery operated, and all the trees in the tree lot were made out of cash, origami cash. They were in a tree shape, and so they loved it. For my niece one year for Christmas, I think was it her birthday? Maybe it was her birthday. I made out of cardboard and a bunch of other craft supplies an ATM. It was an ATM box, and I rolled cash. I taped them together, and I had a little piece sticking out. So when she started pulling the cash out of this ATM, like she was just pulling and pulling money, it was fun. I love doing stuff like that. I love seeing their expression on their face. But I thought, man, nobody's ever handed me anything like that. Like making something for me with, first of all, there's the gift, the currency is a beautiful gift, but then actually making something, making a cake or a tree lot or 18, making it fun and different, showing me that you crafted something with your own hands to present me that currency instead of just throwing it in a card, like a generic card that you don't even sign your name to because you're too lazy. That's, okay, great. I want romantic cash. I want it romanticized, the cash giving. But again, I really focused on gifts. And the reason I guess I did is because I've just never really received. And so I would like to receive gifts this year. I have some other things here, like romantic one-on-ones, just kind of sitting in silence with each other, having good friends that we go out with, one or two couples, that we go out with regularly, having some spa days together, like taking him to the spa I go to go in the wellness booth or, the wellness cocoon. But that is what I want to receive. And, I do. I want this to be a year of gifts, and I want them to be meaningful gifts, pieces of jewelry that, he knows I would love, like antique occult jewelry, garnets, amethyst, opals, cash. But I want the cash given to me in a meaningful way, like make me something out of cash. Yes, I want like the cutesy outfit and the gadget and the boots and the makeup. Surprise me with it, like take me out on a quiet moonlit walk where we sit on a bench and look at the skyline and you just slip me the gift, the ring or the necklace or whatever, slip it to me in the wellness booth at the spa, and yeah, I want us to have our partnership, but I also want to spend time developing couples partnerships because those are fun when you have, another one, two, or three couples and you guys all hang out together. You do a bowling league thing or whatever. I think that is a gift also of, energetic exchange. So for me, I went on a tangent here. For 2026, that is what I want. So for you, and then I want you to do your list. What do you want this year? What do you want to receive from your partner? What do you want that partnership to look like this year? Maybe for you, it's something else. Maybe down here, you're going to have sex or a dinner, a romantic dinner at a fireplace, a vacation in the mountains, whatever it is that you want with your partnership. Maybe it's a puppy. Maybe you guys want to get a dog this year, or you want to get a dog this year. I want you to think about what you want in love and romance that would come through partnership. If you're single, maybe what you want, if you want partnership, maybe Google the physical traits of a partner you would like, a tall, dark-skinned man in a suit. Maybe you want a future partner to be, a very successful lawyer or attorney. Go grab some images of law firms or whatever and, pluck those down here. Um, I mean, get creative with it because this is a manifestation project. What you put on here is what you are going to be drawing to you. It's what you're going to manifest. So, first part, straight up here, how do you love and romance yourself? How do you show yourself love and romance? How are you doing that right now? What are you doing to romantically seduce yourself every day into loving yourself? What's going on in your sex life? What do you want in 2026? What are things on your bucket list you haven't tried? Things you want to experiment with, things you want to learn. What do you want in the realm of sex? Not just with partners, but maybe with yourself. Like, are there things that you want to do with your energy to sexualize it? Maybe it's a piercing, maybe it's a tattoo. That's a big thing, a vaginal tattoo, whatever it is. Maybe you just want to go buy a shit ton of lingerie for no other reason but to look at it on your body in a mirror. I want to see you put that in the upper right hand corner. Left hand corner, what actions are you taking now or that you can take in the future to manifest what we put on the top part of our board? Is it classes? Is it change? Is it going to see a personal trainer? Is it going to get a certification? Is it to move? Do you need to relocate? Are you in a spot that's shit and you need to get out of where you're at and move by the end of the year? What action can you manage that you can take, that you can attempt to manifest these things? And then on the bottom right here, again, what do you want to receive? Like in terms of reception, you're already giving to yourself and romancing yourself. You want to try some sex stuff out. You're going to take actions for the sex and for the self-love, but what do you want to cut? What do you want from third parties? Third party sourcing. Think of your lower right corner as a third party sourcing. Whether it's one person or multiple people, what do you want them to give you? What do you want to receive? If you're not in partnership and that's what you want to manifest this year, what does that future partner look like? What does he do for a living? What does he smell like? What does he sound like? Put that down there. And then once you're done, you're going to save it as a JPEG. You can print it out and frame it if you want, or you can just save it to your phone, to your laptop. You can revisit it. I wouldn't change it. I mean, you could make a new one as the year goes on, but I wouldn't change your original. Keep your original alone. You can make a new one. You can make notes on your list, but keep this intact. Don't fuck around with it. Okay. Once that intent is set, don't play with it. Just like in real magic, you guys. This is real magic, but like if we're casting a rope or compound, I guess is what I meant to say. But this is very exciting for me. I think it's going to be very exciting for you. I would love to see all of your finished virtual vision boards. Email them to me as JPEGs or attachments or however you need to email them to me. I would love to see them. I would love to divinate on them for you. I want to see what you want and what's happening, and maybe we can pull some cards and see if there's certain things you need to be aware of or to do to help manifest these things. But I loved this. This is like such an amazing I wish I could pull all of you from all corners of the world over to my apartment and we could sit here with glue sticks and scissors and magazines and make these together. I really wish we could because I think that would be so much fun. But this works too. Oh, and here's just a smaller version. But yeah, I think I stretched the other one out so that you guys could see it. But yeah, I'm excited. You guys give it a go. Send me if you're comfortable sending them to me. Send them to me. I would love to look at them. And that's it. That is our presentation on Valentine's Day. If you guys have any questions, hit me up. But other than that, stay magical and stay romantic this romance season.